Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
How was Father's Day?
It was good.
Yeah?
It was good. It's a relaxing summer. So I'm in between trips.
Okay.
So we go out later this week and go on another trip.
Very nice. Very
But
nice.
Nice and quiet.
Gotcha. Well, I thought that,
How about for you?
well, Father's Day it's hard and weird for me.
Okay.
Well, my dad passed away a couple
Mhm.
years ago, and so don't really celebrate it from that angle.
Right.
And with Eric being gone, even though I have two bonus children,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same.
Sure.
Especially since I came around when they were well into their teens.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's weird for me. People say, "Well, you're a dad."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kinda.
I mean,
Not in the-
you are.
Okay, true, but not in the way that I imagine having been. So Father's Day is always a weird one
Sure.
for me.
I
But
feel like there's a lot of people out there that were in different situations that it may not be what you wanted it to be for you
yeah.
initially, but it is what it is, and you're still a dad.
Okay. Well,
Right.
and that is true. That is correct. And I thought that maybe today we could kind of reflect back on the value that dads bring to the family dynamic.
Awesome.
And because I think a lot of times dads get maybe overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I know that might be a little male bias coming out, but I think that sometimes it's easy to forget the importance that a positive male role model can be in the life of young kids.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe we could kind of explore a little bit about just that.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I found a particular article that I thought was kind of neat. And it was talking about things that kids need to hear from their dad.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading through this, I kept thinking, you know what? I can hear my own dad say these things. Because I got really lucky in the life lottery with a dad who was for me, a wonderful role model.
Right.
And so I think that, I think as a male, we can indeed be a nice positive influence. And so, because there's a lot of things that, well, boys are tough. Boys don't cry. All those kinds of things. There's, you're stoic. You keep it inside. You don't show your emotions, those kinds of things. And I'm not sure that those are maybe the right kinds of messages maybe to share.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that the article talked about was it's okay to let your kids know, especially if you have sons, that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry.
And so I guess probably one of the best ways for them to know that is if they ever see you do it.
Yeah.
Has that been something that you've been able to express?
Yeah. And it's, it's something that I try and model for my nieces, my nephews. It's not like you're crying all the time.
Sure.
But in funerals.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to cry. And when you're saying it's okay to cry, whether through words or through actions, it's kind of a subtle way to say to, sorry. How you ever get those things that get stuck in your throat? Anyway, but what you're doing in essence is giving permission. You're sharing with the kids that it's okay to show your emotions,
Right.
which can include potentially crying.
Okay.
So that was one thing. And I thought, okay, because again, it's fine to be tough. It's fine to be firm. And as boys, don't cry at every little thing. But it's still okay,
Right.
to process and show emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things they talked about, and I remember my dad saying this, crying out loud, right up into one of the last things he shared with me.
Mm.
And he said, I'm proud of you.
I think those are powerful words.
Well, I think so. There doesn't matter how old we are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's always self-doubt.
Yep.
Am I doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I've tried to share that with both of my stepkids.
Yeah.
By sharing with them the things that they're doing, the success that they're having, by letting them know, you know what, I am so proud of you that, I would have never thought that this would have been a direction you would have taken. But you have maximized, the opportunities given to you. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
And I think the kids need to hear that. And especially when it's coming from, moms and dads definitely parent differently.
Yes, they do.
But I think sometimes, again, you hear it from mom, you kind of expect moms to do that. But to hear it from dad, I think carries a little extra weight.
Yeah. I think those two things, right? The okay to cry and the proud of you, it leans into an emotional area that a lot of dads don't necessarily express well. It's not always natural, right? And so when kids hear that from dads, I think that has an impact.
And it helps, I think, promote that kind of behavior, that kind of character creation, that kindness that we want our children to develop and carry on into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, I thought that was good. And my dad shared this with me as well. And there were times where I would have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And something else he shared that was brought up in this article was, you don't have to have it all figured out.
True.
And I don't know. Do your kids come to you with questions or?
Not as much anymore, but they're grown, right? So there's not as many questions. But I'm back when they were younger, certainly, and we know as parents that we don't have it all figured out, and so acting like we do isn't necessarily a good thing, and you don't want them thinking that they be giving this illusion that you do know everything, and so they must also know everything too.
Yeah.
And have it all figured out before they get to do certain things. Because how many things in life do you actually have everything figured out before you actually do it? Very rarely, right?
Yeah.
People say it all the time. We'll wait for this, or we're going to wait for that situation, or this money, or whatever. And the truth is, you'll just never do it. You'll never have it all figured out. You'll never have it all under control. And so you will never do it. And I think it's important for kids to know that you don't have to have it all figured out
and that's
before you move forward.
And that's kind of what I was thinking too, is when I was growing up, I always looked at my parents and they always seemed to be so well prepared. Yeah. They seemed to be, now there was a stretch when I was a teenager that I thought they were dumber than fence posts. Turns out I was the one that was dumber than a fence post, not them. But they always struck me as having things figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got older and became a parent that I was reminded that no, they really didn't have it.
Right.
Maybe not reminded is the right word. Maybe informed is the better way to phrase that. And I have to say, it's it's kind of neat to learn that they were just as worried, just as scared when as I am in some of the things that I was doing.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, I just thought that, the idea that as a teenager, as a 20-something, becoming an adult, getting married and having kids and all that, it's okay not to have everything all figured out.
Right.
So
So this next one is big,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, this is a huge thing, probably in some of the experiences you've had through divorce group or in counseling, but like respecting women and others, right? Not just women, but other people, right? In general. It's something you have to do.
Oh, amen. I have, in all my years in the classroom, I was always not arguing. I was pushing the kids respect.
Yeah.
Respect is a two-way street. Everybody wants to be respected.
Sure.
Well, to get respected, you have to give respect. And so that was something that I saw my dad do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he necessarily told me this very often, but he modeled it and he demonstrated it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Respect. I mean, he showed respect for my mother, for the other ladies in the neighborhood, but he did that for everybody. Everywhere we met or everywhere we went, and people that we met, especially those that knew him, held my dad in high regard and with a whole lot of respect. But I also know that he gave it as well.
Right. I just think it's huge. I mean, whether you're in a relationship with another person or it's just somebody you meet on the street. I mean, just being respectful. You know, everybody's just trying to live out their lives.
Yeah.
And everybody's in different places and all the things. And there's just no reason to be disrespecting anybody. Right.
Well,
or
all right.
That's a non-negotiable. But for boys, right, for boys in particular to see that respect of women, I think is important because, you know, we have a lot of domestic violence taking place. And I know that it takes place in other types of homes too.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just predominantly what we see. And, you know, in order to curb that, you got to teach it.
Yes. No, and you know, and when you have daughters like you do, I would imagine that you also have taught them that you don't need to be disrespected by a guy just so that you can have his favor or his love or whatever.
Exactly.
And so I think
it's very important.
Again, some of the things that I think, again, dad can do a better job of maybe than mom. Not saying, again, I'm not trying to say one's better than other, but I think that dads carry a different approach and that can, you know, with their different perspective.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I grew up loving John Wayne movies.
Okay.
And one of the things that I liked about John Wayne was he was a tough guy. Kind of had that tough guy, macho kind of mindset. And I thought, now that's a man's man.
There you go.
And one of the things that I have learned, not just from my dad, from so many others, is that it is okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
And that was something I will, you know, when I reflected back on this particular question, my dad frequently would accept help from others.
Right.
Whether it was neighbors or coworkers or folks from church. He was quick to help lend a helping hand, but he was also okay to ask for help or accept help when it came knocking. And so I think the idea that we can teach our kids that it's okay to ask for help or to accept help, I think it can actually help build resilience.
Yeah. I mean, everybody needs help.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of what kids might need to learn anyways, right? Like you're going to fail. You should fail. All of learning and success is based on a previous failure, you know, that you learn from and you move on from. So, you know, you can't, nobody just is born and then has just, you know, success after success after success, like everything they're doing. Like people that you see that are successful and they talk about their successes or they write a resume with all their successes on it. There's a lot of things that are missing.
Yeah. Mine in particular.
Because nobody writes a resume and says, I tried this and I failed. I tried this and I failed. And I tried this and I failed. They tell you about the ultimate successes that they have. And so that other history is missing. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's just like studying history in general. You don't necessarily see all the failures because history is written by the winners. So you see the successes and that's all you see. So you know, having that so that you can make sure that people know to ask for help.
Yeah.
That your kids are asking for help and being open to that, right? Don't push them away for asking for help. You want to make sure that they do come to you to ask those things.
Yes. That was something that I will admit both parents or both of my mom and dad did, as far as saying, being open.
Mm-hmm.
They would encourage me to come to see them, ask for, their help or their guidance. And they were pretty good about being relatively non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Something I got to do a better job of, especially when I'm driving. Okay. Now, this is something that was brought up in the article as well, that I have to give my mom and dad a lot of kudos for doing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you're used to hearing it from mom, but it was good to hear it from my dad as well. And that's the 3 most wonderful words I think a kid can hear.
Okay.
And it's not, here's the money.
No.
It's, it is, I love you.
Okay. I love you too.
Well, thank you.
We're good.
Okay.
No, this is big, right? Like, I do this too.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get that sneaking feeling coming up on you. Like, is it weird for me to say it? No, it's not weird.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, they're my kids and I'm going to say it. And so I say it to my son and I say it to my daughters and I say it at the end of phone calls. And frankly, I don't know how many of our people who actually listen to us are where they are at in their stage in life, but we're both kind of closer to the point where lots of people are kind of dropping around us, right? Like they're passing on, and so you start to get a sense of I don't know how long life is.
Yes,
and so you want to make sure you make those communications because it might be the last one.
Yes.
I'm not trying to, be depressing, but it's just a reality, right?
No.
Like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, or even tonight. So it's a matter of, making sure that it's conveyed, every time. Now, obviously words don't really mean a whole lot generally. Yeah. So it's got to be backed up by those other things we were talking about.
Sure.
It's got to be backed up with some actions of respect and all those other things. And maybe some of the things we'll be talking about in a minute.
Well,
but you've got to have all of it but saying it is good. And I think that in our culture, saying it, especially a dad saying it, is really good because for so long it was, you don't have that expression. Right.
Dads had a different approach.
Yeah. And so your dad saying it all that time, I mean, that's remarkable. Because his generation probably wouldn't have generally said that.
No, I think you're right.
Show that emotion.
And that's kind of what, again, coming from the psychological side, one of the benefits that kids have from hearing this kind of regular affirmation of love is it can have a huge positive impact on helping them develop their emotional security.
Sure.
And I think that's something every parent wants for their kids. And so, again, having something, even if they go, yeah, sure, thanks, Dad, or some other flippant remark, I think it actually hits home and means a lot more, even if they don't say anything out loud.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Now, I have to say that with this next thing they discussed, I think at first, when I heard this from my folks, especially my dad, I think it was because I have no athletic skill.
No,
I couldn't even make Little League baseball. Really? All right. I'm just not athletic.
You're so into basketball. Like, I figured.
Oh, well.
Picture that you're basketball from the stands.
Yeah, that's, yeah. But one of the things that they discussed and I thought was really neat, because I remember hearing this from my own father. It's not that you win or lose, but how you play the game. And he would say, did you do your best? Well, but Dad, we lost. No. Did you do your best?
Right.
And I would go, well, I think I did. And he said, then he would let me know, you're a winner. And whether it was, I played in the band, so they had music concerts and stuff like that, and marching competitions when we got to high school.
Right.
But a lot of times, oh man, I messed this up. Oh, I turned right when I was supposed to turn left. And again, he would remind me, did you try your best? And I was with my folks when I discovered that Eric's mom had filed for divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling really rotten, really blue, like what a failure I am. And he looked me in the eye and he said, have you tried your best?
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, well, I thought I was. And he goes, then you did.
Yeah.
You're not a failure. And so again, it helped me remind myself that wins and losses is not how we measure our value. And so I was in my early 40s when he tells me this. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? I guess there's no age too old. You can't hear those kinds of words from your parents.
Right.
Especially your dad.
It's true. It's true. Winning, people are like, well, but if you didn't win the game, then you didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think that's true, right? Like if you and I fielded a team against the New York Yankees, I am pretty sure we would lose the game. Would we have been winners for giving it a try?
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. That would have been a winning experience. I mean, I'm definitely not going to beat them.
No,
but you get to try, right? And so that's a win. I mean, we think of winning in too narrow a term. Winning is more about you and what you're able to accomplish in that day. That's maybe just a hair beyond what you could accomplish.
Oh, amen. Amen. Well, this next thing that they mentioned, I go way back, and I keep thinking back to middle school. And I think by the time you get to late elementary, and definitely by the time you get into middle school, it's all about how well do you fit in.
Sure.
How well do you fit in? Are you in the popular group or not? And I think I wanted so desperately to be in the cool group, the popular group, all of that. And I was extremely tall. I was exceptionally skinny, far cry from now. Yeah. And I was unathletic. And I was as shy as a shadow.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to be all those and be popular and with the cool group. And it really had a huge negative impact on my self-esteem, when you're 12, 13, 14 years old. And my dad would say, it's okay to not be like them. Be you.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's kind of hard to figure out who the heck you are when you're that age.
Yeah.
But it helped for my dad to say, it's okay to be different.
Yep.
And I think it helped me by the time I started getting into high school and started to figure out a little bit about who I was, who I wanted to be, who I wanted Rod McCall to represent. It didn't really start to manifest itself until I got into college. I mean, I don't know when it happened.
Typical
for you. But the idea that my dad was saying, you be you. Don't you be somebody else.
Right.
Just be you. It's okay to be you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think all kids need to hear that. And it's one thing coming from mom, but something a lot different when coming from dad.
Yeah.
Now, the next one they talk about is not something I don't really remember my dad ever sharing something along these lines.
Mm.
But it was, let me tell you about a time that I failed.
Yeah.
Or about an issue I struggled with.
So let me ask you, do you think that it would have been, I mean, I know you had a great relationship with your dad, right? Like clearly he was incredible. But with this one thing, if he would have told you about some of those things, do you think that might have helped you at times in your life?
I think so.
I mean, clearly you had some struggles in your life.
A couple here and there.
And I'm sure, the major ones are ones that nobody would have ever imagined. And definitely your dad didn't have those kinds of struggles.
Mm-hmm.
But just knowing, I think that dads do have struggles, I think is important for kids.
And that, and I totally agree. And
that's a lot of times we hide as adults, as parents, we hide things.
Mm-hmm.
We hide our struggles, and then we wonder later as they're becoming adults, or as they are in the early adulthood stage, why they can't deal with those problems.
Yeah.
And it's like they never saw us do it. Like, we're supposed to be the example of how you do those things, walk them through it. So you can't hide every problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, if you're on the verge of divorce, you don't necessarily want to air all those things out in front of the kids, and there's things that are age appropriate, but, but, there's other things. If you're struggling with some money this month, or, somebody loses a job, that's not a happy-go-lucky time. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So you've got to be a little bit vulnerable with, these are some things that I struggled with. And sometimes I'm struggling with it now.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe I struggled with this 20 years ago.
And I think that especially with dad showing a little bit of vulnerability, it makes it easier to teach the lesson.
Yeah.
So, well, the last one I've got ties exactly into what you were just saying. And that is telling your kids that it's okay, that your emotions are valid. Whatever it is you're feeling is appropriate. And it's one of those things that allows them to be okay to feel the way they do.
Yeah.
And again, from a psychological point of view, it can have that kind of validation can have a huge positive impact in helping them develop their emotional regulation, handle all these kinds of things.
And I think that this goes back to some of the things we always talk about, seeking first to understand before being understood. A lot of times as parents and as dads, we want to move into the, they gave us a one sentence thing and now we're like, okay, we've got the answer. Let's fix it. And then we wonder later, well, how come they can't cope with these things? Because that's not how life works, right? Like, you have to work it through, and we got to get our kids to think on their own on these things. And so it takes a little bit more of an active listening kind of a scenario, right? Where you're, that sounds frustrating, but not providing an answer, right? Like, let them expand on it. Let them think it through. Let them get deeper. Let them work it out. And you know what? It's likely that in the end, they won't need your answer. They'll have it and they'll feel better and everything will be fine. But if we try to give the answer.
I think the idea of giving, it's kind of like, we do with our kids in the classroom, give them the tools for self-discovery. And they'll get there in a fashion we may not have thought about, but the conclusions might be extremely surprising and enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, providing the answer leaves no learning, and it leaves no understanding of why that's the answer. And so the next time that comes up, they won't go to that answer.
Yes.
Because they don't know how to get to it unless they come to you and you just tell them. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life.
No, I sure don't.
Right. You want to have kids that are able to grow up into adulthood and be self-reliant, self-sustaining. Not that they don't come back for help or things like that, but that for the most part, they can handle things.
Yes.
Not hiding it, not hiding the struggle, but handling it.
And yes. And that's why I guess I liked ultimately this article. The idea of being that strong, stoic, Cary Grant type of silent male is just not a way to be emotionally healthy, and it's not the way to raise emotionally healthy and successful children.
No.
So anyway, like I say, Father's Day came, being yesterday, the idea that I like this article and that, dads do definitely play a very key and vital role in helping, raise successful children.
Yeah.
So to all the dads out there, a belated happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
So
happy Father's Day to you.
And you as well.
All right.
Well, that's all I got. So thanks for indulging me one more time.
All right.
So, well, until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye.